All right, Algebra 2, talking about factoring still today. Our first example, we have the quadratic 6x squared minus 6x minus 20. And we simply just want to factor it. We don't really care about the answer right now. We just want to simplify. So first thing we want to do is see what we can take out of all of these numbers. In other words, what's the greatest common factor? You may have seen GCF before. What goes into every single term? So what goes into 6? Negative 6, and negative 120. Well, as we can see here, we could pull out a 6. 6 goes into 6, 6 goes into negative 6, and 6 goes into negative 120. So if I pull out a 6, that leaves 1, negative 1, and negative 20. Now we can factor this pretty easily. What adds to negative 1 and multiplies to negative 20? Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Second example, we want to find the solution set, so we're going to factor and solve for x. So we have x squared equals x plus 20. We want to get equals 0 on the right, so let's move x plus 20 over to the left. I'm going to subtract x and subtract 20. Now we have x squared minus x minus 20 equals 0. We got that equals 0 on the right. Again, we're going to factor, so what multiplies to negative 20 and adds to negative 1? Same problem as before. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Now we're going to solve for x. Remember, if this equals 0, we just need one of these terms to be 0, right? So let's set x minus 5 equal to 0 right here. If we add 5 to both sides, x equals 5. And then what makes x plus 4 equal 0? A negative 4 is another way to think about it. So our two answers would be 5, negative 4. All right, so again, we have in this problem, we don't have 0 on the right, so let's move that over and get 0 on the right. So 5 minus 7 is negative 2. Is there anything that we could factor out of 6, 11, and 2? No, not really, right? So now we need to find what multiplies to the outside. So what multiplies to 6x squared? Either a 3x and a 2x, right? 3 times 2 is 6, x times x is x squared. Or we might also use just 6x and x, like 6x and 1x. So once we get this done, we need to fill out what goes in either of these. It's either going to be this equation or this factored equation. So it has to multiply to negative 2, right? We're going to multiply here and add to 11 when these numbers are multiplied by 3 and 2 or 6 and 1. Remember, eventually we'll multiply to the outside and multiply the insides to get that positive 11. Let's flip over to the second part of this example. This is just a little guess and check here. So I kind of split this page in half. Just a reminder, we need to multiply to negative 2, and it eventually needs to add to 11. So let's just look at this half right now with the 3x and 2x factored out. So we're going to multiply 3 by something on the outside and 2 by what goes on the inside. Well, what multiplies to negative 2? Negative 2 times 1 and negative 1 times 2. And let's just kind of dive into those. So we have 3's and 2's. So 3 times negative 2 and 2 times 1. So I took this 3 times this negative 2 and this 2 times this positive 1. We do that math, it equals negative 4. Not what we're looking for. We're looking for an 11. So let's switch these numbers around. Let's switch around the negative 2 and the 1. So instead of 3 times negative 2, we're going to do 3 times 1 this time and 2 times negative 2, 2 times negative 2. But when we add those together, that's negative 1. So it's obviously not this set of numbers, negative 2 times 1. Let's try negative 1 times 2. So let's start all over. 3 times negative 1 and 2 times 2. What's that all add up to? 1, not it. Let's switch the numbers around. So instead of multiplying 3 by negative 1, let's multiply 3 by 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. Not it. So we know that it's not this left side. We're not going to use this factored out form. So let's try the 6x and the 1x. All right, see if we can try our luck with negative 2 and 1? Well, 6 times negative 2 and 1 times 1, that's negative 11. We're getting closer. Not it, though, so let's switch it around. So 6 times 1 and 1 times negative 2. 6 times 1 plus 1 times negative 2, that's 4. Also not what we're looking for. Coming down to the end of it here. End of our possibilities. 6 times negative 1, 1 times 2, right there, that's negative 4, not it. Let's switch them around. Let's take 6 times 2, so 6 times 2, and 1 times negative 1 right there. That equals 11. That's what we're looking for. These two numbers, 2 times negative 1, multiply to negative 2, and when multiplied by our x's, 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So 12 minus 1 is 11, adds up to 11 right there. Let's use these combinations. So remember, this is 6x times positive 2, but we multiply the outside. So it's actually 6x, and then the positive 2 is on the outside. And then here in the green, 1 times negative 1, that's 1x. It's multiplied to the other inside, so there's our negative 1. So we kind of flip them around. So then we would solve for our answers, and our solution set would be 1/6 and negative 2. So this is the guess and check way. Works for a lot of people, but there's also another way. So if this seems like too much, we could also do grouping. So we're doing the same exact problem here, 6x squared plus 11x plus 5 equals 7. We're going to move that 7 over and get equals 0 on the right. Now we're going to take these two numbers on the outside and multiply them. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12 right here. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. We just multiplied our outside numbers. All right, so what multiplies to negative 12 but also adds to 11? 12 times negative 1 is negative 12, and 12 minus 1 is 11. So let's take these two numbers and let's write them out. So we're going to replace this plus 11x with negative 1x, or minus 1x, and plus 12x. Because negative 1x plus 12x is still 11x, so it's still equal, it's still legal. All right. Now, just looking at 6x squared and negative 1x, what could I factor out? What could I pull out? Both of these have an x in common, so we're going to pull out an x. What's left over if I take an x out of 6x squared? Just 6x. What's left over if I take an x out of minus 1x? Just the minus 1. Doing the same thing with these two on the right. What do they have in common? They both can be factored by 2. So let's pull a positive 2 out. Now we have 6x, so 2 times 6x is 12x. 2 times negative 1 would be negative 2. Notice now we have 6x minus 1 and 6x minus 1. That's what we're looking for. So you might have to play around with these numbers in the middle until you get the same expression, the same term in the parentheses. And then we're just going to take these outside numbers that we factored out and put them in their own parentheses. So we have x plus 2 times 6x minus 1 equals 0. And then we would solve for x like we normally do, and we get the same answer. It really doesn't matter which way you use. Sometimes one is faster than the other. It just kind of depends on the numbers and depends who you are as a mathematician, I guess. So if you do have questions on one or the other and you're dead set on using one, I'd be happy to help. Just let me know.